I'm Maggie Dale, and I've been working with children for over 30 years as a school teacher and as homeschool consultant. Then utilizing. The last step of learning is utilizing. If receiving, processing, and storing is off in some way, then utilizing is going to be impeded. And so those are the things that we look at, and there's quite a few more things that we look at in an evaluation. But let me go on to show you the profile that we use in our neurodevelopmental evaluations. If you look on the left-hand side, you see the motor output. And on the right-hand side, you see sensory input. There are 3 columns under each. On the right-hand side, you see sensory, and you see visual, auditory, and tactility. And if you look down a little below halfway on the tactility, you'll see olfactory and gustatory. And that includes the taste, the smell, and the taste. And so all the 5 senses are represented on this profile. And then on the left-hand side, under motor output, you have gross motor, expressive language, and fine motor. And those are the way that we respond to the sensory input. And this is what we actually see. The top line represents some of the reflexes that babies are born with. And so the random movement under gross motor, as the child moves around, they touch different things. And so every time they touch something, they're getting some information. The birth cry is the first form of expression and expressive language. And it's a reflex that babies do when they take their first breath. Grasp reflex under fine motor. Babies grasp. It's a reflex that you put your finger in their hand, they're going to grasp that finger. At first, they can't release. It's just, that's there. Later they learn to release, and then the next step is they learn to open and close, grasp and release at will, not just randomly. Visual, the light reflex. Our pupils close, contract to protect when there's a lot of light, and they expand when it's dark. They need more light. And then the startle reflex under auditory. The child, the baby, startles at any sound. But later, as they develop, they only startle to threatening sounds. When you see an adult startling at non-threatening sounds, that you know that reflex has not been integrated or matured, and so that there are things that we can do to deal with that. And then Babinski is the reflex of the baby's toes curling or flailing out depending on their age. And so we look at all these things plus everything else that's on the profile, and we look for missing pieces in development. And that, while we do academic testing for school-age children and above, a good portion of our evaluation is functional. We look for the missing pieces in development, and then our programs that we design for you to do with your children at home are activities that are targeted at those missing pieces. They stimulate the brain in such a way to encourage development. Along the 7th row on this profile, you have, under gross motor, you have control dominance. Under fine motor, you have manual dominance. Under visual, you have reading dominance. And under auditory, you have auditory dominance. Those have to do with the long-term memory and the dominance of each of these body parts. And so we would expect that to take place about by 7 years old. And so those are things that we're looking for. Under visual, There's outline and detail, has to do with the tracking, visual tracking. First, the baby learns to track in one direction, and then later in the other direction. And then the eyes learn to work together, and those are important steps in learning how to read and to use your eyes well. So there's under tactility, I should mention pain. Now, pain is something we don't enjoy, but it's something very important. We have pain for a reason. If someone's sense of pain is not typical, there is a problem. If they are hyposensitive to pain, that means they don't respond when there is an injury, then that is difficult. Some parents are unaware of difficulties, medical conditions that children have because they're not complaining of being hurt. One of the things that really affect auditory processing and the ability in the auditory system is hearing, ear infections. We say that every ear infection that a child has delays development 1 month. So if a child has an ear infection and yet does not feel the pain, then the parents can't work on getting that resolved because they're unaware of it. On the other hand, you can have a hypersensitivity to pain, and it's kind of like the boy that calls wolf. If the child is forever complaining about it and it's no big deal, then there is a problem. So there are activities that we can have you do with your children that normalize the sense of pain. Then there's the Gnostic, right under pain. That's the light touch. What is really confusing to adults sometimes is because the child might respond as if it's terrible if there's some light touch, somebody brushes by them, they make a big deal, and yet they're hyposensitive to pain and they don't do anything. So it just, if you don't think about it, you think, this child is just trying to get a reaction and trying to make trouble. So you have to look at all these different things, and we could talk about every little box on this profile, but we're going to go on at this point. If you've said, I know my child is intelligent, so why is he so disorganized, so uncoordinated, so slow doing his work? Why does my child seem to lose everything, have such a messy room and schoolwork, forget from one day to the next? Why does everything seem so difficult for him? Then, if you've answered any of those questions and asked any of these questions, then you need to look into the neurodevelopmental program. Because what we do is identify missing pieces in development, stimulate the brain to address the missing pieces, remove targeted symptoms and behaviors, and provide academic progress. And so the Center for Neural Development in Lakewood, Washington, addresses those issues. There are links to all of our advisors from centerforneuraldevelopment.com. And so we would like to encourage you to email or call with any questions that you have. Thank you very much.